grandchild, and I'll just be reading a few memories and tributes today to my granny. Firstly, from Robin and Rhoda, sorry, I can't see my paper, there we go. From Robin and Rhoda, Jill's brother and his wife. Jill always knew where she was going, as she was very bright at school and worked hard. It was amazing what she accomplished. I was very proud of her when she got a job at ICI researching man-made fabrics. To be honest, I hated sleeping on Tearline sheets. Maybe that is just a brother's opinion. She was very occupied with study and sport, and I didn't see much of her in those days. We so appreciated it when Jill came to the UK to look after our mother. It was only then that we really got to know her and love her. We so enjoyed her coming up to our house for a chat, and she was always interested in what was going on in the nursery. After Mom had died, they stayed on in Redditch for a while, and we enjoyed that regular contact very much. And then a message from Rachel and Barry, Jill's sister and her husband. Jill was 10 years older than I, and would take me for walks in the pram. Mum told me she was always back within a very short time, as she had much more interesting things to do. She left home to work in Harrogate and was married, going to South Africa, when I was 14 years old, so we didn't know each other very well. But when I was 21, we visited Jill and Alaric, Jenny, Mark and Tim in South Africa, getting to know each other and becoming very close friends, and Jill a very good big sister to me. When Barry and I were married, I joined him in Zambia, and from there we were able to visit them in South Africa regularly. Barry also got to know Jill and Alaric and family very well at that time, and he also made very good friends with Jill and Alaric. When we arrived each time to their house, we always found a very carefully worked out list of medical appointments, which was important to us, as there was virtually no medical help in Zambia. Those visits were very precious to us, with lovely outings and cream teas in Durban's Botanical Gardens. We frequently gave them a few problems, as we often arrived with various sicknesses, which had to be dealt with. For example, a tonsillectomy, hepatitis, which Ivan kindly passed on to Tim, to only mention a few. Jill was a voracious reader with a wonderful collection of old books, which I especially loved reading when we visited. After retiring back to UK, I was able to have long phone calls with Jill, which was very special, and I so missed it this last year. We so admired Jill's fortitude in all her many illnesses, without grumbling or being miserable. In fact, a joy to be with and very good company. We all played Rummy Cup just over a year ago, and of course she beat us all. All of our family here in UK are so very deeply grateful to Alaric and Jill for their kindness in looking after Mom in her old age. We feel very much with you today and feel for your sadness, as we ourselves also feel. Our love to Mark and Heather, Megan and Helen, Tim, Lindsay, Danielle and Rowan, and of course to Alaric. Love from Rachel and Barry. And then from my mom, Jill's daughter-in-law. Thank you, Jill, for loving and accepting me as your daughter-in-law. Even though I detest maths, which you loved. Even though I loved driving along dusty, bumpy dirt roads, which you detested. And worst of all, even though I have never read the book Anne of Green Gables. I will remember you for your beauty, your sharp mind, your integrity, your love of English flowers, and for your favorite color, turquoise. May you rest in peace and rise in glory. And then just something from the grandchildren. I handwrote this, so I hope I can read my own handwriting. As Granny Jill's eldest grandchild, I would like to share some of our fondest memories of her. Granny was always so loving and supportive, and invested in her grandchildren so much. She inspired us with her intelligence and expanded our minds through sharing her passion of reading, and specifically in my case, Sudoku. The trifles she made whenever Rowan and Danielle came to visit was always much appreciated. And of course, who can forget Granny's favorite color, blue? On a personal note, I am incredibly grateful and blessed that Granny attended my singing concert in September despite her frail state. Even as Granny became more physically and mentally frail, her strong mind prevailed. Amongst all the confusion and hallucinations, she would have moments of extreme clarity, and you would see her caring, witty, and strong personality shining through. goodbye to Granny, she had one of these moments of clarity, and she said something that I will keep with me for the rest of my life. I also believe that she wanted to say this to her other 3 grandchildren, and so I want to pass this on to you today. This very simple but profound message from Granny. She looked at me directly and said, and this was after a few days of confusion. She had not had many moments of clarity, but in this one moment she looked at me and she said, I hope your life goes well. I also just want to say a huge thank you to Grandpa for looking after Granny with such love and care. Your dedication, patience, and strength is an inspiration to us all. We love you and Granny very much. Now I'd like to read something my sister wrote. I will seek you amongst the flowers, amongst the dewdrops that settle at dawn, in the quiet between the raindrops, on the petals coloured warm. I'll think of you when flowers bloom, soft and bright as your smile. Their faces turn towards the sun, that sun which sees us through. At sunset, when the bees fly home, I'll think of you at rest, a flower bed for pillow, soft against your head. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks again.
Hello everybody, and thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Just 2 off-the-cuff things that have been noted already really is Mom's sewing. Is actually wearing a tie today, that one of the ties she made for him. And on her illness and so on, even amongst us as a family, we never knew her to complain. There was never a self-piteous moment. And for that, it's a great example. And neither from you too, Dad. Something to aspire to. My role this afternoon is really twofold: to say a few thank yous and then to read a short passage. I'm not going to keep you long because if Mom is paying attention this afternoon, she'll have one eye on us and the other on her watch. Personally, I think she's not really paying attention. She's too busy doing 2 other things. The first is enjoying firsthand the love of Jesus. And the second, I think she's got a list, and she's got her arm on Jesus' shoulder saying, firstly, that passage in Hezekiah 4, what did you mean there? Anyway, to say a few thanks to those that need to be thanked, and we deeply want to. Firstly, to the staff at Amber Glen, who, both admin staff and nursing staff, all of the team there, who cared for Mom deeply, as if she was really their own family member, for their love and affection to her over the last 7 months, and personal touch. We are deeply grateful to you. Also to the doctors and their teams over this last couple of years, we thank them for their input. To the residents from Amber Glen and Amber Field and Amber Valley and Amber Ridge and Amber Lee, and have I forgotten any other Ambers? And the wider Howick community, thank you so much for all your friendship and the community you've expressed to my family, to my folks over these last few years. You brought cakes, meals, taken Mom and Dad out, and more recently cared for Dad as he's faced this big change in our program. So from my brother and I and from Dad, thank you to all of you and to the wider community of known them. Then to the ladies of this church for serving with tea and coffee afterwards, thank you very much. And to Sally Barrett for, those are Mom's flowers, those are just perfect, as Heather noted. And Edwina, thank you for playing today. We appreciate all your support and help. To the community of this church, specifically Christchurch Howick, we really want to thank you for being family to Mom and Dad over these last 15 years. They've felt knitted in a real deep sense of family and belonging here. It's really what church should be about. Doctrines and theology are important, but Jesus said we will be known by our love for each other. And it's clear your love has been expressed tangibly and in a real way to both Mom and Dad and to us. So thank you to you for that. And to the example, Andy and Belinda Pike, for your leadership and concern, thank you. And then specifically to Richard and Felicity, I said this to you on Tuesday, I think it was, Richard, that over all these years, my folks have always spoken so highly of you. Despite differences in opinions and at times my mom's pithy and direct comments, you've shown love and devotion to them. Thank you for caring for them spiritually, emotionally, and tangibly. Thank you so much, Richard and Felicity. And also, please stay for tea and snacks afterwards if you can. We'd really appreciate it. We know some of you have got the Durban rush hour to head home with, so Peter Marisburg rush hour. I want to end off with a passage with a slight variation. It's the words found in Matthew 25:23, which my mom's probably already heard already. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful, enter into the joy of your Lord. I'm not going to read that whole passage, but I'm going to read my sister's translation of that passage. It's actually an incident that she observed. She experienced this and she wrote about this. It was printed on the hymn sheet at her funeral. It wasn't read out there, but it was printed there, and I think it's still highly apposite today. Jenny writes, I was at Durban Airport once to meet a friend. There were a lot of people there and a lot of noise. A tall man carrying a heavy suitcase walked through from the luggage pickup area into the main concourse. His wife and 3-year-old son were standing right at the back of the crowd. As soon as this little 3-year-old son saw him, he shouted at the top of his voice, "Daddy!" and ran through the crowd at full sprint and launched himself into his dad's arms. If his dad hadn't put his suitcase down in time, the little boy would have crashed into him and they would have fallen over. As it was, the dad caught him up in his arms. They said nothing, but gazed at each other and laughed and laughed and laughed. The busy people noise had stopped, and everyone had turned to see what the laughter was all about. I had a lump in my throat, and quite a few people had tears in their eyes. Ever since then, that's how I've imagined what meeting God will be like. To hug each other tightly, to look into each other's eyes, and to laugh our heads off.
Well,
thank you, Mark, Megan, and Tim for that. My memory of Jill was primarily in Bible study. Let me tell you, you had to get up very early in the morning if you're going to keep up with Jill. She had a very insightful one. There's a very clear insight into the scriptures as well. And it's true, we didn't always agree on the secondary things, we did on the essentials. And she had a habit of coming in with a comment that was like the finger on the button. And it was apt, and it was appropriate. And it could have hurt, but it never did. Because it was never said in anything but love and compassion. She was an extremely gracious person, and reflecting the love of Christ. Jill was a Christian. That is a defining characteristic of Jill, at the moment probably the most important one. She was convinced of the reality of the biblical Jesus. Her faith was in him. She trusted him for her eternity. And those facts governed and impacted every part of her life, and she is, as we've noted, with him now. May I, for a few moments, speak about the life of a Christian. I speak as a Christian, as one who shares Jill's faith, and just explain how we see life, our perspectives on it and our priorities. Then I want to see how that applies to Jill and her life. But I'm going to warn you, it is a radical take on life. It turns the world upside down, or perhaps it turns the world the right way up. I want to refer you to a very interesting chapter in the New Testament. It's in the book called the Letter to the Hebrews, and it's chapter 11. If you're not into the Bible, you probably don't even know it's there, but it's very, very significant. It's a chapter which looks back to the faithful men and women of the Old Testament who lived before Jesus, and it commends them as an example to us. All had faith. That was their defining characteristic. Faith that was rightly placed. They believed what God had told them, and that pleased God. That was enough for him. That was all he wanted of them, and he credited that as righteousness. But the strange thing about that chapter is that all these people who are praised and lauded were all deeply flawed. All had failed at one point or another. But in our chapter, there is no mention of these failures. That is very significant. I'm going to come back to that in a few moments. But let me first just read 3 verses from it. Verses 13 to 16. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had an opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. To the Christian, the disciple of Jesus Christ, this life is a pilgrimage. It is a journey we are passing through. Let me give an example to illustrate that. You may fly off to some exotic place for your holiday, but the flight is not the holiday. It's just a means of getting there, and your place on the plane is only a temporary home for a few hours. So it is with the Christian. This world is not their home. They are foreigners and strangers on earth. And like their Old Testament forebears, today's Christians live by faith. The promises that God had made, the important promises, the promises pertaining to eternal life, those promises on which they base their hopes, are only fulfilled in part in this life. The best part is still to come. But still, they believed. They had confidence in what they hoped for. They had assurance about things they could not see. Why? Because God had told them in the Bible. Because God had promised. And they trusted him. They knew he could not lie. And they came to the conclusion that his promises were greater and more reliable than anything in this world that we can see or touch. And having faith in Christ, the Christian is accepted by God. Therefore, God, we read, is not ashamed to be called their God. That's a personal relationship owned by him. You know, it's not enough that I own God, that I own Christ. He must own me. I can stand up here and tell you that I know the state president, but I promise you, if you ask the state president if he knew Richard Sturdee, he would shake his head and say, never heard of him. But that relationship that we have with God in Christ, that is owned by God, is facilitated by Jesus. That God will own us and is guaranteed by him. 2 verses illustrate that. In Acts 4:12, salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. The Christian's eyes are always on the prize, not what this world can offer, but the next one. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. As they did, so do we. Just a few comments on that pilgrimage. It is a pilgrimage that is driven by God. He is in the driver's seat. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling, says the Bible. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. Nothing happens in the life of the Christian that he has not ordained. He permits it, he puts limits on it, the good bits and the difficult bits too. It is a personal program like a fitness program tailored to our individual needs. Every Christian follows a different path. Yes, we worship the same God. We worship and follow the same Jesus. We have the same faith. We have the same destiny. But we have different personalities, different circumstances, and that requires a different program. And God's aim to prepare us for heaven, to prepare us to meet with Jesus, an everlasting, perfect, heavenly life with God. For a little while, the Bible says, you may have to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. That program of God that drives our lives prepares me, it prepares you, it prepares all who follow Christ for eternity with God. So we are different people, and we have individual programs. And at times we lose sight of this. We grumble, we question, we doubt. Why me? Why this? But God doesn't give up on us just because of that. Inevitably there are some difficult and painful bits in life. We live in a troubled world. We're not immune from its troubles. In fact, they grow our character. But here's the point. The glorious point, the comforting point, the point that sustains us. For the disciple of Jesus Christ, there is an assurance that there is a powerful, wise, intelligent, and caring person behind the messy and difficult bits in life. Nothing is random. Nothing is capricious. There is a loving purpose for everything, even if we can't see it at the time. And the end is glorious, absent from the body, present with the Lord, which is better by far. Oh yes, you ask, but what about those flaws in those Old Testament believers? Flaws which we share. Let's call them by name. They are sins, they are offences to God. Why are they not mentioned in the New Testament? Simply because they have been forgiven. As far as east is from west, so they are from God's sight, expunged from the record by Jesus' death on the cross. Now, how does this relate to Jill? Well, first, Jill was committed to that way. She was on that pilgrimage, and she saw her life as such. It didn't stop her being interested and concerned in many things, but overriding was that understanding that it was a journey to glory. There were in Jill's life some painful bits, faithfully borne. There were deep and painful spiritual trials. We reference to those just now as we moved from one church to another. They taught her, and I can testify to this, an understanding of the length and the breadth of God's grace. Few people had such a wide understanding of how wide and broad was the love of God in Jesus Christ. There was the loss of Jenny, the loss of a daughter. That is a hard, hard thing to bear. And then there was Parkinson's. But you see, Jill finished the course. She did not give up. And now looking back, it's all worth it. The suffering is over. She's in glory. Pie in the sky, you say no. It's just reality. These things are more real to Jill now than anything in this life. All doubts gone, all colours brighter, all perspectives clearer. She now knows what she only welcomed from afar. For now we see only a reflection in the mirror. Then, in Jill's case, now, we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. We do not mourn for Jill, we rejoice for her. But what about us? Where are we? Are you on that pilgrimage? I'm sure many of you are. If you are, be encouraged to keep it up. But maybe you aren't, but you want it. It's your choice. I cannot make up your mind for you. It's a very personal thing, your relationship with the Lord. But if you want it, if you want that same pilgrimage, that same aim that Jill had, the gate is narrow, but it is wide open and it beckons. There's no turnstile, there's no fee, it's free, and all are invited. And just 4 simple questions will see if you are ready to go. 1, do you want to know God? Do you really want to know him? Do you want to know him on his terms rather than your own? Because there are no other terms on which we can know him. Is that what you want? Is that what you see as the highest pleasure and glory in life? Are you troubled by your flaws like those Old Testament believers? Let's call them sins, that's what they are. Do you want them to be expunged from the record? Have you come to see the glorious truth that Jesus is God's Son, God with us to save us? And are you willing to trust him for your eternity? The answer is yes. If it is, then enter. Start that journey, start it now, for there's nothing to stop you. If you could ask Jill if it was worth it, what would her answer be? I can tell you it would be a resounding yes. Amen. So thanks. Would you take up your hymn sheets and turn to the second hymn? Like a river glorious is God's